Well, it was actually Ray who suggested it as a play to me because you'd done a reading of it.
Yeah, well,
you'd done it when it was work in
yeah,
progress.
we had done a mini workshop of it, you know, and I had an audition for it while I was here last year doing Ma Rainey. So they happened to have it in the library upstairs, and I was like, "Have you read this play, Anita? You should read this play because it would go well here."
It's a big anniversary for the Civil War. Selma, I didn't know about until this fall, so we'd already programmed it before I was aware. I probably should have been paying closer attention, but yes, it was connected into that whole movement. Also, just all of the stuff that's been happening across this country in Ferguson. And with race relations, it feels like this is at the root of all of it, so it just felt really timely.
I know one of my great grandmothers came over at the age of 5 from Nigeria, I believe. So she was a slave. She was alive in the 50s, and actually in one of the old magazines in this town in Louisiana, there's a picture of her and an article about her and how all the historians in the area used to come to her to fact check because she was alive when it happened, you know what I mean? So it does have a special place in my heart because it's a great play to begin with, but you know, I do feel connected to it.
The hunt for my ancestors is still on the way, you know, because many people believe that after we were emancipated, freedom just happened. But actually things got a lot worse, you know, and whole families were broken apart. I remember in middle school, we were doing like, draw your family tree, and I couldn't get past Savannah, you know, and I got in trouble for it. You know, I wasn't doing the work. And you know, you lose sight, the whole families, I don't know how I got my last name. My last name is Brantley, that's British, you know?
No, I mean, Brooks and I, one night we were talking about that just in terms, you know, websites like Ancestry.com or something, how, you know, how Brooks just flat out said, I can't do that. It stops very quickly. And I think, I mean, at least from my perspective, I think it'd be easy to feel like, oh, you know, guilt, which is such a useless emotion or feeling in this context. And I think just more than anything, this play's kind of increased my understanding, and I hope other people's understanding of privilege. We're still, I mean, there was someone from the Historical Society here doing a talk back. I mean, Maine was involved in the slave economy. There's so much that my race has benefited from and continues to benefit from. And without really understanding that and owning that, I don't think you can really, you know, guilt doesn't do anything. Understanding the privilege that you have and where that is inappropriate or how you can shift away from that and just be honest about it, I think is what I don't know, yeah, I've learned.
I just want to say one more thing. You did a great job in putting together a Southern accent. Yeah. Really, did anyone else notice that?
You can thank my dad, who's from Savannah, and my mom's from West Texas, so I had a big pool.
He cheated. That's all it is.
Sunday was the one day they got off, and I think it was just Sunday morning. I'm not sure, yeah. But they would have some kind of service.
Yeah. And it was, you know, the tradition, as I come to understand from reading, is if the slaves were allowed to worship, it would be in the faith of the household.
Yeah. How about that?
Well, it is, and I'll accept the applause for the set, but it's not mine. It's Brittany Vasta is the set designer, and she has done just a beautiful job. And I think it reflects all of the emotion and what's going on in the play so very, very well.
It's a fun playground.
Yeah.
And seeing the parallel, the historical parallel experiences between the Jewish faith and the Negro experience, it baffles me. Why didn't we catch on to this so long ago? You know, because I discussed with my beautiful fiance, who's right there. Hey,
She's
I singled
so
you
pretty.
out. When we talk about it, and you know, in terms of the African American community, there's not much understanding, generally speaking. I'm sure there's some, but there's not much understanding of the similarities between the African Americans and the Jewish Americans here. and how there's a huge separation in both communities, and yet there's so much we have in common. And I don't know, in reading the play, I was like, how did we miss this? How did we miss this? I don't know.
Yes, and
We had the money, you had the land.
Well, I don't know. We was on the
We
land.
were on the land. We were there, yes.
so what was the most difficult thing in reading the play, rehearsing the play, or performing the play?
Should for me, it was all of Act Two, actually. It started with the Abraham Lincoln thing, because I didn't know how to deal with that. And then the Seder, because it was just difficult to learn, you know? And I didn't know how to reconcile the news I have about Lincoln into the Seder, you know? And then how that turns into, oh my God, my family's sold, you know what I mean? So that whole journey was kind of rough for the kid.
I think for myself, it's it's hard sometimes coming here. Like once I'm here, the play starts, it's fine. But it's it's not like at the end. Sarah and Elizabeth come in and Simon's like, they were right outside. Everything is okay. It's gonna be where it's gonna work out. It's such a devastating ending that on like 2 show days and things like that, it's hard sometimes to wrap my head around. Like I just have to clear it out. I don't know what's gonna happen when I go out here because that ending, I think for me is the most difficult part of it.
Yeah, it really is. And like Ray was saying, in the script, there's a lot of quick shifts that you have to figure out how to justify psychologically, and emotionally, And outside of that, I think that's a challenge we all have with the script. But for me personally, this might sound simple, but props. I have a bit of a juggling act with props here, and it's rehearsal process. It's hard to sometimes connect with what you want from the other person, like intimately, while juggling this. Like every
1,000.
all that. I'll deliver a line, then I've dropped something, and I have to ignore that. But no, I don't. My character wouldn't ignore that because I'm all about looting, so I do care about that. Start over.
The question is where each of their characters would be after the curtain went down.
Well, I like to think Simon is sort of an optimist, and I like to think he catches up to his family someday, one way or the other. He's not going to stop till he finds them, though. Yeah. Yeah.
I think for myself, it's pretty bleak. I'm depending on a fugitive in a very, severe way for life. For food, water, everything. So if he gets in trouble, if he doesn't come home, I'm dead.
Yeah.
So I think best case, I get arrested for desertion. Best case. I think worst, He is my brother.
Yeah.
But he's also wanted for the murder of a white man.
Yeah.
And they're looking
good.
for him. Yeah.
It's not looking good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. At the end of the play, we're sitting there and it's. One of the major themes of this play is what's next. What happens and what's next. Inside joke. What's next? And because I'm wanted for murder. And because Lincoln was assassinated, this town is crawling with federal soldiers who might be interested in you as well.
Oh yeah.
And are we waiting to die? I don't know, but it's not looking good.
You can't end a play like this on 4 minutes of silence,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, if it's full,
Yeah.
if it's full, you
gotta feel
can.
the moment.
That's
Yeah,
me. It's a
thank you.
whole new stasis. Yeah.
It's kind of like the dramatic version of earlier on in the play in the first act when we're eating the food and there's just nothing but chewing. It's just being able to gauge how long a moment can hold. And that comes from you guys.
Horse
Horse
meat.
meat?
Horse meat. Dog food.
If we explain the magic, it ain't magic no more.
How do you keep the level of emotion going but not so strong that it goes flat?
I think personally a huge part of that is the humor that but especially Brooke's character finds. And I think if you don't have those moments, or even right before Caleb confesses that they've been sold, it seems like maybe it's the best day of Simon's life. Like he's just having such a good time. And I think an easy trap with this play is falling into the despair and the lack of hope. And that's what I think really lets us have those moments of fuller emotion, that there is humor and there is lightness in this world.
Yeah. I feel like it's a realistic approach, because in life you're never just one thing at one time. There's levels to this. That's just my opinion.
Well, and if all of you guys can think back to all the shoveling that we were doing and how you found a way, I mean, it's a much smaller version of this, but you find the way to just sort of get through it and have fun with it.
Yeah.
Was there a teaching moment about freedom for each of you?
Well, for my character, pick a page, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, he's... well, the one that comes to mind is when he says, freedom is more than broken chains.
Yeah.
You know? It's anything that breaks your spirit and muddies your mind.
Yeah.
There's more than one way a man could be a slave.
And I guess speaking from my character and myself, John's character was very much all about reading, because that's how he was liberated, and I guess for me it reinforces the notion that perspective, having a worldly perspective, can be freeing in itself. And yes, there'll be obstacles such as government and policy and social this and that, but if you have the perspective, you can deliver yourself from that, whatever bondage that is.
Yeah, and I steal Ray's answer. Just when he says that, personally, it just rings so true that, those things you hold on to, or those things that those burdens you carry. And I think it's really beautiful that there's this huge weight from this brick just sitting on this really, delicate tray, and those things that you hold on to, and the bond that creates, and how releasing those things, however painful, is another source of freedom.
Why do we see Caleb, why do we go back in time and see Caleb before all of this, but not any of the other characters?
I mean, I certainly can't speak for the playwright, but structurally, I think it has to set up that in Caleb's heart, regardless of how twisted the relationship might be, in Caleb's heart, that there is a real love that he feels, whatever that means. And also, it I think gives you an idea of what would make someone desert. I mean, he was in it. If he was at Fredericksburg, Sharpsburg, Gettysburg, he was in this war almost from the beginning. And to desert now, I think really coming to terms with, I'm going to die. I will not ever have this again. I think structurally it just helps put those things in a bit more perspective.
Why a corporate sponsor would not necessarily jump on a chance to sponsor something like this. I think that this sort of material is, these guys did a fabulous job. When you see a play with a title, the name, The Whipping Man, that's not necessarily something that you want to have associated with your company. And the issues, go figure. But the issues that are covered are also, they're high stakes, and it's potentially, you don't know what you're getting. And somebody who's running a corporation isn't going to sit down and read the play and go, wow, this is it. They're just going to look at the subject matter and get a little bit frightened. So I do understand that, and we've been talking about that, and this has come up numerous times with many audiences. And in fact, I hope that this afternoon that they let you know that Doug Green, Green Design Furniture, heard that and said, wait a minute, this is wrong. I want to be a partial. I can't do the whole thing, but I'll do part of it, and I challenge other small business owners to do the same sort of thing. So I can understand why, but we've probably got to do a better job of selling it. But the more I can tell corporate sponsors that that's the response I'm getting from my audience, that helps us make the case as well. I think most of us, most corporations right now are really concerned about image and how positioning and placement and how something can be taken out of context. It's a strange world we live in right now, where you just never know what's going to happen. But it is a small part, but only if you know the play. Do you know that it's a small part?
Well, there's still Confederate officers, there's still returning soldiers, there's still those and he's also doesn't really know the logistic. At that point, the Confederate Army was so fractured that it's very possible he didn't know in any sort of central command what's going on. The news about the surrender is news to him, so he doesn't know. So I think some of his fear in reality is a bit unfounded, but I think with what he understands, it could very likely that someone who he deserted or someone found out or saw him leaving and that he's not safe. But I think you're right, that he probably isn't in that much danger.
But to add to that, though, he's also a deserter who went home to Richmond, which was the capital of the Confederacy. A bit more enemies.
Yeah, and as far as the facts go, I think Matthew was very fastidious about making sure the facts and his play coincided well. In fact, there were, a couple of lines I say, and I was like, that sounds too modern. And I looked it up and was like, no, it's from 1850s, this, kind of thing. So I think that's part of being a good play, is it's almost timeless. I belong to a theater and company in New York that was founded by a playwright, so the word's everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Movie stars, when they come to the theater, sometimes they play fast and loose with the lines, because that's what they're used to doing.
Yeah.
But in my experience, the words are everything.
Yeah.
You can't change them. I'm not a writer, I'm an actor.
And it kind of diminishes the collaboration. If you're everyone has their job. The director has the vision, the writer has his words, and it's my job to interpret it. If I make it my own words, then I'm not letting the playwright do his job. And I'm not really acting. I'm just talking.
Yeah. And sometimes,
I just wanted to say I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, moved there in '57 at the age of 5, and all three of these people likely would have died very soon. This was right at the end of the war.
Yeah.
The city had been burned for the second time. Complete chaos. The slaves didn't know where to go, didn't know what to do. There were bands of Confederate soldiers that would have killed this man instantly.
Oh.
I think there's a
When he tried to leave town, Simon, he was not getting out of town. A black man carrying a gun.
Yeah.
And you didn't have a hope. There was no hope. None whatsoever. All three of these guys.
No.
were dead.
And those.
Well, thank you, pessimism, Pete. Thank you, Peter,
Wait, there's
pessimism.
somebody.
Thank you for bringing this excellent play to us. It's brilliant.
Thank you. That was great.